And welcome to the Wednesday, December 14th Planning and Zoning Commission. To start out with, Aislinn, will you call roll, please?
Here. No.
Here, and I have nothing to disclose.
Here, and I have nothing to disclose.
Roger Fry.
I'm here, nothing to disclose.
Marjana Hewlett.
Present, and I have nothing to disclose.
Richard Phillips.
Here with nothing to disclose.
Shin-Kyu Ryu.
Here, and I have nothing to disclose.
We will move on to agenda item 2, which is the approval of minutes. The commission may wish to waive all oral reading of the P&Z clarification and regular meeting minutes from November 9th, 2022, and to approve the minutes as written.
I move that we waive the reading of the oral reading of the minutes and approve the minutes as written.
I would second.
So Ty second.
Second.
We have a motion by Hewlett and a second by Phillips. Aislinn, will you call vote, please?
Yes.
Phillips.
Yes.
Bartow.
Yep.
Chanda.
Yes.
Fenwick.
Yes.
Fry.
Yes.
Rue.
Yes.
Motion carried.
And now we will move on to agenda item number 3, which is a public hearing for Title 17 text amendment. At this time, this time will be set aside for the commission to hear comments from the public regarding the city-initiated text amendment to Title 17 zoning ordinance. Could everybody please silence their cell phones? 10-minute limit by the applicant, 3-minute limit public testimony. Make sure you state your name for the record, all of that good stuff. At this time, I declare the public hearing open, and I would like to invite staff to come forward.
Good evening, Madam Chair and members of the Commission. Jim Anglesey, Long Range Planner for the city. This item before you is a city-initiated text amendment to Title 17, the zoning ordinance. These amendments include several items which have been provided in your packet, but for the benefit of the public, I will present the summary of the proposed amendments, which include amendment to the duplex definition to clarify that 2 units may be detached from one another, to remove the subdivision definition and refer to the definition in Title 16, subdivision regulations. For use classifications, we are looking to amend the household living classification to refer to the definition of a group home in Idaho State Code, replace group living unsupervised with boarding and rooming house, and amend its classification description, replace group living supervised with residential care facility and amend its classification description, remove transitional housing classification, amend shelter housing classification description, and then in decision-making procedures and public hearings, remove planning and zoning commission hearing decisions for conditional use permits over 1.5 acres, amend the hearing examiner hearings and decisions to include all conditional use permits. Under appeals, amend purpose section to cite the correct Idaho State Code section. Amend appeal period from 10 days to 14 days to better reflect state code. Amend reconsideration decisions to specify a 60-day period to better reflect state code. And amend appeals to city council decisions to better reflect state code. Under the hearing examiner, amend purpose and duties sections to include all conditional use permits. Amend duty section to include a 10-day deadline for determinations and findings. Under Planning and Zoning Commission, amend duties section to remove preliminary plats as recommendations and identifying them as decisions. Remove conditional use permits from P&Z duties. Under Historic Preservation Commission, amend commission appointments and terms to better reflect Idaho State Historic Preservation Office requirements. Create a new section to address mediation standards, which reflect Idaho State Code. I will say, for mediation. There was a concern regarding when mediation can end, or if there are any like terms to the limits of mediation. That is addressed in the proposed text, as they have to agree to one session for mediation, and they can choose not to participate in any remaining sessions that may be requested. The use table, remove group home to reduce redundancy with household living and revise allowances. Replace group living supervised with residential care facilities and revise allowances. Remove group living unsupervised to reduce redundancy with boarding and rooming houses and revise allowances. Remove transitional housing. Revise shelter housing allowances. Revise public and social support facilities allowances. And amend Note 1 regarding group homes to refer to Idaho State Code. Dimensional standards table, remove duplicate front yard setback row. Remove Note 3 in Central Commercial District column to reduce redundancies. The Historic Preservation overlay, amend Certificate of Appropriateness process section to allow for email transmittal of decision and provide for a 10-day deadline for findings transmittal and provide for a 14-day appeal period. Also to amend demolition procedures section to remove a 30-day decision requirement and allow for email transmission of decision. Allow for affected persons to appeal demolition decisions within a 14-day appeal period instead of 30. The original town site overlay, simplify non-residential setbacks to allow for a 0-foot setback for commercial. Allow for reduced setbacks on a single OTO corner lot. And then infill development criteria, amend the criteria to require all criteria to be met rather than just 2. In this, we're also proposing changes to those criteria. There have been concerns on this one. Most of them were maybe a lack of understanding of how these criteria work. These should be seen as incentives rather than requirements for all infill, period. So these are to incentivize infill on the valley floor and where existing development already exists. You can still do infill in other areas that may not meet these criteria, but it just means you're not eligible for these incentives. Staff identified several stakeholders, including developers, realtors, engineers, and architects working in the city to review the proposed changes and provide comment. Comments received by stakeholders have been included in your packet for your review. Staff has also received questions and comments over the phone by some of these stakeholders, again, mostly regarding mediation and infill. Notification of this public hearing has met all state and local noticing requirements, and to date, staff has not received any comment from the general public regarding this agenda item. And this concludes my presentation. I'd be happy to answer any questions the commission may have.
Thank you. Commission, any questions?
I have one. How often do you revise these? Is it a certain time of the year, a month, like?
We look to do at least an annual or a biannual update to the Title 17. And it's just based on things that we may find in review, or if a question comes up that the code's not clear, we compile it and do 1 or 2 times a year
Okay.
based off a need.
Any other questions?
I actually have a question, I guess related to kind of a situation that we came before, like where the infill was not actually in Old Town or high density areas, but were in kind of the periphery or new development, and people were trying to kind of utilize infill where it's not supposed to be, I guess, used for the purpose of the infill. Has that also, those kind of, are there any changes that would kind of prevent those from happening again?
Yes and no, depending on where you think infill should be. We do have a map in the back of the packet that kind of shows kind of what would happen with these changes. There are 3 maps. I'm going to go kind of look at the second map. It's titled Affected Parcels Above 4,600 Feet. Now, the 4,600 feet was selected as a criteria to incentivize the use of these criterion for development of the valley floor versus the foothills. And so to answer your question, we're looking at focusing on the valley floor rather than being able to utilize. And these incentives are, just for your information, if you're not aware, the incentives are a reduction in lot size, is essentially what it comes down to. And so we would rather see that on the valley floor where there's already urbanization for the most part and not on the foothills. And so that 4,600 line is a common contour of the bottom of the foothills.
Thank you.
Any other questions? If not, we can start with public testimony. Anybody for, against, or uncommitted would like to come forward? Do you want to rebuttal that? So with that, I would like to entertain a motion.
I move to recommend approval of the proposed amendments to Title 17 zoning regulations, finding the amendments are in compliance with the comprehensive plan and the criteria listed in Section 17.02.170 of Pocatello City Code, and to authorize the chair to sign the findings of fact.
Second.
I have a motion by Hewlett, a second by Fenwick. Aislinn, will you call vote, please?
Yes.
Yes.
Bartow,
Yes.
Chanda,
Yes.
Fry,
Yes.
Yes. Yes.
And with that, I declare the public hearing closed. And do we adjourn or for the work session?
you just move us, since you closed the meeting for no other business, you moved us, just say, we're moving commission into the work session.
And we're moving the commission into work session.
There you go.